This video, of course, talks about hair symbolism, and whenever I discuss symbolism, I have to mention that the door is red. What does that mean? It's an old English teacher meme that dunks on symbolism in books, and I'm going to say that a lot throughout this video because hair and symbolism go hand in hand. So without further yapping, let's discuss hair length and how it ties to personality. The length of a character's hair could say a lot about them personally. It could tell a lot about their gender identity and role in society without even having to verbally explain it. There's so much history when you do a deep dive into the history of hair throughout the years. Some of my standout favorites would be in the 1920s and the rise of flapper culture. These girls would embrace finger waves and bobbed hairstyles as a way to symbolize freedom and rebellion from the Victorian era conservatism. Or in the 1970s, with the popularity of afros and how it became a symbolism for Black identity, embracing natural hairstyles, distancing themselves from white beauty standards. Another one that is kind of interesting that no one really talks about is dyed hair. It's especially rebellious even today to kind of just dye your hair blue or purple or pink or whatever. There's a sense of self-identity within that. And honestly, I just love the creativity of someone choosing to do that with their own hair. Or even on the flip side, being natural is symbolic as well. Remember back in the day when everyone would straighten or hot comb away their curls? It's so funny looking at old photos of myself. I straight up deep fried my hair because straight hair was popular during that time. I think it got so bad that my hair just it wouldn't go back to being curly for 3 years. It was so weird. But yeah, natural styles are in, whether you're naturally curly or naturally straight. I don't think people are deep frying their hair as much as they used to do anymore, or at least not to the extremes of the 2010s. But putting that aside, I think you can get a good idea about how hair can be red doored depending on the timeline. Basically, you can choose to conform to a societal norm or deviate from that, and that fact alone can say so much about a character. Long hair is really tied to beauty and strength. It's also just very traditional to have long hair. To keep your hair long means you basically made little to no alterations to it, making it a very unoffensive hairstyle. I think of Samson from the Bible, whose hair was tied to his strength, or Rapunzel from Tangled, whose hair was tied to her power and beauty. I say beauty because some of you got really pissed when Eugene cut her hair short. I know this conversation has been oversaid about 1 billion times, but he was dying, okay? I think short-haired raps is cute, okay? But there are a couple of people out there who swear up and down that she's not attractive anymore, but her hair being that short was a creative decision by the writers and designers to show 1, Raps breaking away from Mother Gothel's control, and 2, to show Eugene's love and sacrifice for her, because I think some of you people forgot that he basically sacrificed himself for her in this scene. And so while long hair shows traditional beauty, I believe short hair demonstrates beauty in a different way. Short hair is self-confident, it's creative, it's a way to show control of the situation. Rapunzel's hair being chopped off, that's symbolic. Mulan deciding to cut her hair, that's also symbolic. Zuko cutting his hair, that's symbolic. And the common symbol is a sense of control, and it doesn't have to call too much attention to itself. Diane from BoJack is probably the most subtle character I've seen take control from season 1 to season 5 to season 6, where it fluctuates in length, but she does go from long to short. You know, since half of you guys are girls, I think you can relate to me when I say this, but when I'm stressed, the first thing I'm doing is cutting my hair. I can't control the situation, but I can gain some sense of control by cutting off my hair. Throughout college, my bangs were just gone, disintegrated, It got so bad that I had to wear a headband. And funny enough, I still wear a headband despite my hair growing back. But yeah, hair is just a way of getting control of your fate. One cartoon I love for this is Total Drama. And get used to it, cause this cartoon has so much hair symbolism, like right next to the hair symbolism that is heavily documented in Avatar. I think people need to study Total Drama as well, because it's literally up there in terms of hair symbolism. The first character everyone's bringing up is Heather. In the first season, her appearance is top priority. She doesn't care about friends, she doesn't care about being nice, she only cares about looking good. I mean, as early as episode 2, she refused to jump in the water because, hello, national TV, I'll get my hair wet. And it's so interesting because we all see Heather as this ruthless, plot-armored, calculated, conniving villain that can't lose. But in reality, she has a weakness. When her beauty and vanity has the potential to be compromised, she completely dissociates from the game. Like how she refused to jump in the water in episode 2, and how in the very episode she's eliminated in, she refused to have her hair shaved, not even for $100,000. Both times her beauty was compromised against her will. And this little thing became a trend in the series of people turning bald randomly in Total Drama. Like, I'm so serious. If you come out of Total Drama with a haircut or just straight up bald, you know you messed up. Even in like the latest seasons, the antagonist Julia received a mullet, so like, yeah, just kind of ties back to that thing with control. And every character, whether you want to debate how well they were written, lost some sense of control when they were in the game, so they also lost their hair. But hair always grows back. Speaking of growing hair, let's talk about hair and growth. And I mean growth metaphorically, not physically. Okay, maybe just physically. Okay, maybe metaphorically. I don't know. Watch the segment. One thing I love is when a character switches up their hairstyle. It's a good way to track the progression in a timeline, as well as getting into their mindset during this time in the story. But before we start talking about changing a character's hairstyle, I'll just talk briefly about the same face syndrome. Yes, we just have to talk about this briefly. So, same face syndrome happens when an artist gives every one of their characters the same face. Same head shape, same eyes, nose, and mouth, same body, all that, with the only differences sometimes being the hair and the clothes. I'm sorry, but you cannot join the Red Door hair team if your character suffers from the same face syndrome. The biggest way to tell is if you change a character's hair and they become unrecognizable to the viewer. That's kind of bad. Like, your character doesn't have to join the Red Door hair team if they want to, but there's some fun to be had when changing the hairstyle. So how do you fix this issue? The simplest way, without diving too deep into this, because this is not the video for that, is to put more heavy emphasis on shapes, different shaped heads, noses, and bodies. Then you can join the team. And once you're on the team, that's when the fun begins. One of the most well-documented hair progression timelines in media would probably be in Avatar. I feel like I talk about this show every video, but like, it's just an easy go-to reference for everything. And the nutjob fan base these nut jobs have picked apart every frame, making my job easier. Like, talk about some frickin' philosophers. I wish all my other cartoon fandoms had like an Aristotle in it, but you know what? No one's gonna analyze Uncle Grandpa, so I'm gonna do it. I guess I will, you know? I cry. But anyways, it's so easy to track the character's place in the story as their hair changes, like how Aang's hair remains bald throughout the majority of the series. A completely recognizable hairstyle for an air nomad, especially one on the run, but he's so tied to his culture, he'd keep himself bald despite the risk. And there's no mistake that the moment he fails, like getting shot down by Azula, he loses his identity and is shown with his hair growing. On the flip side, we have Zuko, whose failure was shown from the moment he appeared on screen. So basically, when a loser of an Agni Kai is spared, they have to shave every part of their head except for the top knot. And that top knot is so prevalent within the Fire Nation culture. It's their sense of identity. You could see in book 1, Zuko is still tied to his culture with the top knot, while still bearing the weight of having his head shaved to show he's a loser. That's why the scene of him cutting off his signature entire Fire Nation top knot while growing out his hair is so significant to his growth. Anyways, Avatar hair symbolism can be a video in itself. That's why I suggest watching these two great videos on it. And funny enough, these are not the only two videos on it. Like I said, these guys are philosophers. They have like so many videos on this. But yeah, I love how you could just tell what a character is going through just from a hairstyle. Just like how Azula's hair is perfect and neat in her many appearances, but the moment she gets paranoid and cuts off her own bangs, it shows her loss of control, which honestly, that's a full mood. Cassandra, also from season 1, we talked about the significance of rebellion when it comes to short hair. Her hair is short throughout the entire show. She was rebelling since day 1 against Corona's societal norms of becoming a lady-in-waiting. So when she completely separates from Corona, it turns blue. Which, yes, it's because of the Moonstone, but design-wise, it's a clear sign of rebellion. Most of the characters, if not all of them in Tangled the series, they all have natural hair colors. The only other character who also doesn't conform is Varian. He has a little blue streak in his hair. He did rebel at one point, but at the end of the day, he still had some loyalty in him. I went really long without talking about my book, which is insanely funny to me because I use hair symbolism a lot. Especially personally for me, I use it a lot to show where a character is in the story. The way Gioni, Emmett, and Kathy look from the start completely deviates from how they look towards the end, because I choose to make them suffer, and their hair will be the telltale sign of said suffering. So, main character of the story and part-time punching bag is Gioni. In early timelines like that shit show, which is Pizza Pocket, the first 3 chapters of my book, she has her locks in a ponytail. Ponytails are a very practical and athletic hairstyle. You have your hair tied back so it doesn't get in your way, and when it comes to Gioni's early escapades, it really shows. She's always running, always exploring. She's described as a reckless and adventurous person. So when the tail end of chapter 3 happens and she has to give up her ponytail, I believe that's a significant turning point for her. She lost her left ear and has a scar near her left eye, so she lost the ponytail to hide the injuries she's ashamed of. And she keeps this hairstyle for the majority of the book, trying to hide the fact that she's damaged in the eyes of society. Her new hairstyle is not practical for her formal lifestyle. In fact, it makes it harder for her to run and fight. So now it leaves her to make a crucial decision. Keep the ponytail to keep her formal lifestyle, or keep her hair down to disguise her shame as a way to gain a fresh start in society. Either way, she has to walk through that red door, because once you mess up, you can't go back. Hair is such a significant part of identity. That's why it's all the more fun when that identity is questioned. Hair, like I just said earlier, is entwined with identity. That even the simple act of changing it can say a lot about how you portray yourself, even when it's against your will. My absolute favorite hair trope is when someone has their hair in an updo of some kind, and then when shit gets real, it gets all loose and messy, especially after a big fight. The hairstyle that you created becomes undone, and you lose a part of yourself that makes you, well, you. If you want to disguise your identity, the first thing you'll do is change your hairstyle and cover your eyes. You don't even have to look to media to see that. It's just a common thing that celebrities do to hide from the paparazzi. You know, think Hannah Montana, the best of both worlds. Ooh, ah, ooh. Tell me to never do that again. I think we already talked about the prevalence of the top knot in Fire Nation hairstyles, but literally, when Sokka and Katara disguised themselves as Fire Nation citizens, they also wore that top knot. I always like to tie hairstyles to identity, so when the moment arrives that it changes, you momentarily lose a piece of yourself. Bree is probably one of the most unique characters in terms of hair, choppy bob in the back with long bubble braids in the front. If you want to know the red doored explanation, I'd say that the short hair does symbolize her rebelliousness, but at the same time, it's also pretty much hidden. The front shows her conformity to beauty associated with having long hair. It's a very indecisive and confused hairstyle for a character who is also very indecisive and confused. It's also her most recognizable feature, without a doubt. She has like framed pictures of herself everywhere on some North Korea type beat because she's like a public figure. So if she ever wants to be in disguise, the first thing that goes is that hairstyle. In case you were wondering why Brie had a ponytail in the last video, that's why. She tried to disguise herself to join a tournament. Skylar also changed their hair from jumbo braids, which is a unisex hairstyle, to it just being undone, which is a little more female presenting. With careful glance, it's clear to see that these are the same characters, but with the little recognizable features gone, aka their most prominent hairstyle, they become someone completely different, someone completely ordinary, I'd say. Okay, I showed you characters who changed their hair in an attempt to disguise, but what if the hair is the disguise? And that's where Kathy comes in. Oh boy, okay, where do I even start with this character? I guess her bio? That's a good place to start. Sometimes described as hard to read due to her bangs, Kathy would allow you to know how she feels by her abrasive words alone. 9 out of 10 times, those words aren't the kindest. Shocking to hear she doesn't have many friends but plenty of enemies. Unable to tolerate Brandon's priority change, it caused her to only have one close friend left. She'd do anything to keep that relationship strong. Anything. I'm sure all of you have heard this phrase before. The eyes are the window to the soul. Anything you ever want to know about someone, you can tell by their eyes. If you want to know if someone's angry, sad, or confused, you can see it in their eyes. And that's why Kathy hides them behind her bangs. Yes. There's a lore reason, a red doored meaning behind her hairstyle. In her backstory, she was stabbed, and the first reason her assailant stabbed her was because, of course, they wanted to rob her. Womp womp. But they robbed her because her eyes clearly revealed her fear and vulnerability. Like, the assailant made note that she looked scared, and that fact alone made her the easiest target. It's the fact that she couldn't control her emotions. This haunted her to the point where she closed that window as a trauma response. And while her window was closed, she gained a false sense of confidence, where she now says and does whatever she feels. So while she felt weak and emotional in the past, her current state is a complete 180, where she now feels tough and uncaring. If anyone in this book is saying some off-colored, non-censored crap, it's probably Kathy. A couple of times I've had people ask, how do you show emotion when the character has their face covered with their hair or glasses? Because this specific design choice is insanely difficult to write and draw. But honestly, if the character has their eyes covered, they probably don't want to be showing too much emotion anyways. And with the case of Kathy, she's doing her absolute best to hide her emotions. That's why in later chapters, she'll have her hair forcefully cut off, and she'll have to face her biggest fear again, managing emotions in front of people while trying to keep a brave face, finding a balance between her two personalities, because every one of my characters will have to face that red door, whether they like it or not. But okay, I think you get an idea of how hair can be tied to identity. I can go on a deep dive with all of these characters and their hair changes, and that is a more specific video on Trifle that needs its own video. I don't think it could fit here. There's just too many characters who do it. I use hair symbolism a lot. A lot. But for now, let's discuss one more aspect of hair, and then you're free to go to Dairy Queen. I don't know why I said Dairy Queen. I think you want to go there. I want to go to Dairy Queen. Let's get this video over with. You thought the black YouTuber wasn't gonna talk about black hair, but you're sorely mistaken. I'm gonna take a quick segment to talk about it, but I feel like this can apply to many cultures. I'm just using the one frame of reference I have, which is my own culture, so if something in the segment relates to you in any way, please feel free to chime in the comments. But for now, it's story time with Auntie Rose. Yeah, I'm gonna tell a personal story. let's get personal. So my entire life, I've always had a very unique hairstyle, and the only reason they were so unique was because I was always the only black person in the room. The ponytail balls and flower hair barrettes didn't give me too many crazy looks. Like, I don't remember anyone in elementary school making fun of them. If anything, my kindergarten teacher told me that if I visited her in 20 years and I showed her these same hair clips, she'll instantly remember me. So yeah, hairstyles, especially unique ones, can be tied to your identity. Where's my damn red door? There's my damn red door. But yeah, elementary school was great. Middle school is where stuff went really south really fast. I often wore braids, and sure, it's not a crazy unique hairstyle. It was popular in the 90s, but here's the thing, guys. It was not the 90s when I had it. In fact, it was the early 2010s, and nobody had this hairstyle in my school. Like, nobody. And that led to a lot of weird moments in my life, like people asking how did your hair grow so fast? Or people pulling it randomly, or my personal favorite, someone asked if I braided my hair and then shaved in between it when I had cornrows. I can't make this up if I wanted to. And my god, don't get me started on the cornrows. Everyone found that hairstyle so funny for some reason. Like, I'd step on campus, and the moment I stepped on campus, like, I'm serious, guys, like, immediately the moment I stepped on campus, people would start pointing and laughing. One hairstyle that made everyone ask a billion questions, like Alex Trebek, rest in peace, or laugh out loud like it's season 3 of SpongeBob. Go watch that. That's funny. Go watch SpongeBob. It'd be this hairstyle. I never had a choice when it came to my hair as a kid, but I do realize the moment I became an adult and was allowed to make my own choices, I deviated so hard from black hairstyles. With me, nowadays it's either a bun or a ponytail. And now having to sit here and unpack that, it's like, damn. Okay, so the reason I just trauma dumped on you, dear viewer, despite really not wanting to, is for one specific reason: the importance of representation when it comes to hair. The movie Wish had like the tiniest form of representation that I would have literally died for in middle school. That hairstyle that I just showed you that I could have sworn up and down no one had, Asha had it, and Disney was a well-respected company to these people. Like, it was like literally 15 minutes away from that school. So if Asha existed back then, I could have had a peaceful life. Like, I swear, life would have been just flowers and rainbows and everything. This hairstyle I hated so much in middle school, only because I felt so weird with it. If only I had an actual Disney character back then to prove it wasn't weird, I'm pretty sure the hairstyle wouldn't have been nearly as funny to my classmates as it was. And sure, I may be talking about my own personal experiences when it comes to hair, but there are so many cultures out there with very unique hairstyles that are kind of just lost simply because they aren't represented as prominently. And the normalization of certain cultural hairstyles can really create more richness in terms of characterization. So I definitely encourage diving more into your own culture and just investigating other cultures when you design a character. I think it's so funny because someone asked me if my persona's hair was supposed to represent Germany. No. It's a lot less red doored. Literally, it's like my actual hair, but less gradient. It's like a less gradient version of my actual hair. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. There's no real reason why I chose this. It's kind of just what it is. And sometimes there's no deeper meaning when it comes to hair. And that's okay. But if you do decide to make a character, it's fun to have hair symbolize their personality, whether it's long hair or short hair. To have it symbolize a change, whether it's something that they're forced to do or someone forces it onto them. And of course, use the hair to tell a story within a story. Use hair to represent a culture and the person behind it all. Show their identity and show that red door. Let me know if you have characters who change hairstyles. I'd love to know. But for now, I think that's it. That's the video. If you're interested, check out my book 2152, the Trifold article. It's both animated and illustrated, sci-fi and adventure. This book has a lot of hair symbolism that I didn't even touch in this video. So I implore you to go check it out for yourself and analyze it, or you could just wait for me to make a video and analyze it. Either or, read the book. If you're interested, read the book. Anyways, that will be linked below as well as the newsletter. I have a Discord for artists and writers that'll also be linked below. Like and subscribe and whatever, that is much appreciated. Have fun while creating today, and I'll see you guys later!